The day after my wife and best friend disappeared together, I found out where they ran off to and realized I still had the power to ruin their perfect beginning. The banging on my door started before sunrise. Two, three hits, then the bell. It was the kind of knocking that said something was very wrong. I was rubbing sleep from my eyes when I heard voices, my mother-in-law's, sharp and anxious, overlapping with someone else outside. Mike? Mike, are you home? Please open up. That was Lisa's mom, Jan, sounding like she was already halfway to tears. I got the door open just as she started knocking again, and she shouldered her way in, face pale, clutching her purse like a life preserver. What's going on? Is Lisa all right? I asked, but she was already scanning the living room, frantic. Before I could get an answer, another voice called from behind me, my neighbor, Mrs. Perez, standing on her porch in her robe, watching us with narrowed eyes. Mike, you might want to see this, she called, waving her phone. Dan's truck is gone, too. He never leaves before 7. My heart started pounding. I turned and saw down the hall. Lisa's side of the closet was wide open, every hanger empty, suitcase gone. The bathroom counter was wiped clean of her stuff. There was nothing subtle about it. She'd packed in the night and left me with nothing but the echo of her absence. Jan was already crying now, voice shaking. She didn't even call me. Her phone went to voicemail all night. I thought maybe she was here. I thought maybe you. She glanced at the bed, then at the closet, then away, ashamed for even hoping. That's when Brent, my coworker, came striding through the side gate, holding a coffee like he was trying to anchor himself to something normal. Hey, man, you okay? He asked, voice a little too loud. Heard some stuff at work. People are saying Lisa, that she just up and left. I just stood there, feeling stripped raw. Brent looked from me to Jan, then noticed the empty closet through the open door. What the hell, dude? Did she really? He cut himself off as Jan started to sob again. I found it then, on the kitchen table, a single sheet of notebook paper sitting under her old house key. Her handwriting, neat and distant. I need more out of life. Don't wait up. Brent whistled under his breath. That's cold, man. That's really cold. He shook his head and sat at the table, staring at the note. Jan collapsed into a chair next to him, wringing her hands. I just kept looking at the empty space where Lisa's shoes had always been, thinking this couldn't be happening. My wife hadn't even bothered with a fight or an explanation. Just one line, and she was gone. Jan tried to compose herself, dabbing at her eyes. She's just confused. She'll call. She wouldn't do this for real. Not with Dan. She sounded like she was trying to convince herself as much as me. But Mrs. Perez, still watching from the porch, called out again. You should see what people are posting. Dan's been tagging himself out of state since last night. Florida, I think. Jan jerked upright, panic edging her voice. No, she wouldn't. Not with him. Not like this. Brent unlocked his phone, fingers flying as he scrolled. Instagram, right? Let's check. He turned the screen so we could all see. If they're posting, we'll know in 2 seconds. Jan sucked in a breath, looking at me with wild, pleading eyes. Mike, there has to be a mistake. Maybe she just needed time away. I couldn't even answer. The silence was heavy, except for Mrs. Perez still whispering into her phone outside, probably telling half the neighborhood about the scene unfolding in my kitchen. Then Jan, voice trembling but trying to steady, whispered, You might want to check Instagram. Dan's been tagging some weird places. She stared at the screen, helpless, as Brent refreshed the feed and the reality of it all started to hit. I could feel the humiliation creeping through my skin, burning right through the shock. But it wasn't going to stop there. Everyone was about to know everything, whether I wanted them to or not. Brent slid his phone onto the kitchen table, screen bright with Instagram. All right, let's see just how brave they're feeling, he muttered, thumb swiping as Jan scooted closer, her shoulders tense. He scrolled past a bunch of blurry shots from Dan's garage. Tools, beers, nothing weird, then stopped suddenly. Hold up, he said. Check the location tag. Jan leaned all the way forward, almost grabbing the phone. There it was, Dan, in his signature stupid sunglasses, holding a neon drink next to Lisa. Her dress sparkled, and she was pressed into his side like this was some magazine shoot. Both of them were grinning like their faces hurt. Right above them, Seaside Palms Resort, Key Largo. Jan's hand flew to her mouth. No, no, she wouldn't. She hates the beach. She told me Her voice trailed off as Brent tapped the geotag, pulling up the resort's page. He whistled, low and sharp. I was there last year for Paul's bachelor party, Brent said. Yep, same pool, same ugly flamingo floats. They're really living it up, huh? Brent flicked to the post's comments. Dan's friends were already piling on. About time. Finally, and from someone named Troy. Thought you'd never make a real move, bro. Another guy chimed in. Knew she'd trade up for the sunshine. The likes were racking up. Some of those names I recognized from barbecues and poker nights. Jan's face twisted up as she read. Those men, they're all married themselves. This is disgusting. She tried to hand the phone back, but Brent didn't take it. He was reading, jaw clenched. Lisa's not like this, Jan said, desperate now. She always said she'd never leave Ohio. She was happy, wasn't she? Her voice broke on the last word. Brent shook his head. Jan, she planned this. Look, posting like they got nothing to hide. They're not even trying to keep it quiet. The disbelief in his tone was turning to something harder. I stared at the screen, taking in every little detail, the string lights, the resort logo on the glass, the way Lisa was angled so her ring hand was hidden. No ring, just a painted smile. Jan grabbed my arm, nails digging in. This isn't her. She lost her head. You too can work this out. Maybe if you called. Brent cut in, his voice not unkind, but steady. Jan, you gotta face it. She's gone. Dan's showing her off like a trophy and people are eating it up. He turned to me, eyes serious for the first time all morning. You see these comments? They're making jokes already, Mike. It's out there. Jan pressed her lips into a thin line, fighting tears. I can't believe she'd do this to you. Or to me. She told me she needed space, not this. Brent scrolled some more, shaking his head. Man, they're treating it like a game. I got a buddy who follows Dan. He's already DMing me, asking if it's true. People are talking, Mike. All over town. Your name's all over that comment section. I didn't know what to say. I kept hearing the faint hum of the fridge, the tap dripping, Jan sniffling beside me. Brent set the phone down hard. You gonna let them get away with this? People are already talking. He looked right at me, eyes fierce. They want to make you the punchline, man. What are you gonna do? I didn't have an answer. But the question didn't go anywhere. It just hung there, heavy as lead, with Jan staring at me and Brent waiting, the blue glow of Dan's stupid selfie still shining on the screen. The next day, I showed up at the neighbor's barbecue because not going would have meant more questions, more gossip behind my back. The grill was already fired up, and the usual crowd was scattered around the yard. Kids running through the sprinkler, adults nursing drinks and pretending everything was normal. Brent gave me a nod from across the yard. My cousin Matt waved me over with a burger, trying too hard to look casual. I barely had time to say hi when my phone dinged. then dinged again. All at once, half the people in the yard seemed to be checking theirs too. I glanced at the screen. Group chat, the old Sunday Funday thread. Dan had just posted a photo, and the preview already had my stomach dropping. Brent sidled up beside me. "You see this?" he muttered, shoving his phone in my face. The photo was fresh. Lisa in a bikini, Dan with his arm tied around her waist, both of them grinning into the sun. The caption read, "Trading up," with about 6 champagne emojis. It would have been bad enough there, but Lisa immediately followed up with a second message. "No more fixing up old junk. Time for a real man and a real vacation." Matt sucked in a breath. Wow. She actually said that? The group chat blew up so fast my screen started lagging. Some folks just sent emoji, grimace faces, popcorn, or the side eye. But a few of Dan's work buddies who were there at the barbecue let out actual laughs. One, Troy, couldn't resist, raising his beer. "Guess Dan's getting his happily ever after, huh?" He winked at his buddy Chris, both of them barely hiding their grins. Matt tried to smooth things over, clapping me on the shoulder. "People say stupid stuff online, man. Probably just trying to make themselves feel good." He shot a look at Brent, who was glaring straight at Troy. Troy didn't back off. "Hey, man, I'm just saying, she looks pretty happy down there. Guess Florida brings out her wild side." He took a long chug of beer, elbowing Chris, who snorted. I could feel everyone's eyes flicking my way, pretending not to listen, but hanging on every word. Brent muttered, "Real classy guys," but they just shrugged. Another message popped up in the chat, this time from Lisa herself, a selfie blowing a kiss at the camera with the line, "Sun, sand, and someone who actually gets me. Sorry, Mike." That one landed like a punch. Even Matt winced, looking down at his shoes. One of the neighbor ladies shook her head, voice pitched loud enough for her husband and, by accident or not, everyone else to hear. "Honestly, that's just cruel. He's standing right here." Troy, clearly already a few drinks in, slurred, "Hey, don't blame Dan. It's not his fault. Mike never saw it coming." He looked right at me with a smirk. I clenched my beer so hard I nearly crushed the can. "You want to say that again?" I said, not loud, but sharp enough for the group to stop talking. Chris tried to play peacemaker, hands up. "Cameron, let's not do this here. Just a stupid group chat, man. Don't let them get in your head." But Troy kept going, waving his phone like he was narrating the news. "Stuff's been going on for a while, you know. Dan's not even the only guy she's been DMing, or so I heard." He laughed, then leaned in, lowering his voice, but not enough. "You know Lisa's got more secrets than you think, right?" The group around us went silent, a couple people backing away. Even Matt stiffened, his face tight. Brent's jaw flexed. "What's that supposed to mean?" Troy just raised his brows and tossed back the last of his beer, eyes locked on me like he knew he'd just tossed a live grenade. No one said anything for a second. The only sound was the sizzle from the grill and the awkward shifting of everyone around us. That was it. The party wasn't fun anymore. But all I could think was, if Lisa had more secrets, I was going to find every last one of them. A few nights after the barbecue, Brent talked me into hitting O'Malley's for a beer. "It'll be good to get out of the house, man. Just a couple drinks, crappy wings, forget about drama." I figured I could use a break, so we called up Trevor and met by the jukebox. The place was crowded. I barely got my seat warm when the bartender, Steve, strolled over with a forced smile. "Mike, got your usual? On the house tonight. Rough week, huh?" He shot me that sympathetic look bartenders have when they already know your business. Brent groaned under his breath as Steve leaned in, voice dropping. "Sorry, man, but it's all over town. Heard, heard your wife ran off to the Keys with your buddy." He trailed off, shaking his head like he didn't want to finish. Yeah, thanks, Steve, I said, grabbing my bottle a little harder than I meant to. On the other side of us, two regulars at the bar, guys I'd seen but never really talked to, were in full debate mode, voices growing with each beer. I mean, you gotta see these things coming, one said loud and tone deaf. Nobody leaves overnight unless there's something going on already. You see his face at the barbecue? The other guy, Gary, leaned right over his drink. Bet you $10 Dan was sniffing around for months and nobody noticed. Mike just got blindsided. Trevor shot me a worried look and tried to step in. Hey, that's not fair. Nobody knows what really happened except. Oh, please, Gary snorted, waving him off. It's all over Facebook. Someone posted a photo from the resort bar. Lisa's not exactly keeping it a secret, is she? Someone else chimed in from down the bar. I heard Dan's already calling her his upgrade. That's cold, man. Mike, you holding up all right? There was pity in his voice, but it didn't feel comforting. Brent slammed his glass a little too hard. How about we talk about something else? The Browns, for example. But the regulars barely missed a beat. I just think you gotta watch out for those signs, you know? Once a cheater. Trevor cut in, voice strained. They're not even divorced yet, guys. Can you keep it down? Gary just laughed. Yeah, well, paperwork's probably the only thing missing. I sat there, every word landing somewhere between my ears and my gut. The jokes, the theories, the people acting like it was their business. It was like I was a headline instead of a person. Just as I thought maybe I could tune it out, Brent nudged me and pulled out his phone under the table. Mike, you gotta see this. He slid his phone over with a grim look. On the screen was a screenshot, not Facebook this time, but a dating app profile. Lisa's face smiled up at me from behind a pair of sunglasses. Status, active now. Location, Key Largo. The match date, 2 days before she left Ohio. The last message, see you soon, winky face, and the dude she matched with was not Dan. Trevor whistled. Man, she's already looking for someone else? Dan doesn't know? Brent shook his head. I guess the honeymoon's not exclusive. News like this, it won't just stay at the bar. The laughter and chatter in the bar faded to a dull roar behind me. Steve set down another drink, this time not asking if I wanted it. I stared at the screen, heat crawling up my neck. First the neighborhood, now the town. Everyone knew, and Lisa had moved on from me and Dan, both before the ink was even dry. No one said anything for a minute. Even Gary, for once, kept his mouth shut as Brent's phone sat on the table, Lisa's secret staring back at us, opening a whole new side of the story none of us wanted to believe. Monday morning at the shop, I should have seen it coming. The air in the break room felt heavier than the humidity outside. Everyone was in early, half of them hiding behind coffee mugs, but nobody was actually working. My boss, Greg, poked his head out of his office and called, All right, toolbox check before you roll out. Mike, you too. I grabbed my bag and headed to the bay. The other techs were already gathered, Josh and Ricky, plus a couple apprentices. As soon as I stepped up, Josh snickered and called out, Hey, Greg, better check Mike's box extra close. His wife already ran off. Maybe she took half his tools, too. A couple of the guys tried to stifle grins. Ricky coughed out a fake laugh. Yeah, man, you keeping anything else in there, or is Dan coming by to claim those too? Greg looked uncomfortable. All right, that's enough. Let's just get this over with, he muttered, but he didn't step in for real. He started running through a checklist on a clipboard, but Josh wasn't done. He nudged Ricky, turning up the volume so the whole bay could hear. Guess Dan's the one who needed his AC fixed, huh? Bet he's ain't cool down in Florida. That landed harder. Everybody knew what he meant. Someone from the parts counter snorted, Bet Lisa ain't missing these cold Ohio mornings. I felt my jaw clench. I made myself focus on Greg as he checked my gear, but inside I was burning. Even the apprentices, kids who barely knew me, were whispering and side-eyeing. Greg finished up and handed me my checklist. He tried to sound normal. Looks good, Mike. You're still taking the Miller job today, right? I nodded. Yeah, I'll handle it. Josh couldn't help himself, still loud as ever. Don't work too hard, man. Wouldn't want you to sweat. Who knows what Florida's got on you? Ricky cackled, and the apprentices joined in. Greg finally snapped. Seriously, that's enough. Get to work, all of you. But nobody apologized. The respect I used to get just wasn't there. I was barely even a guy to them, just a punchline. Brent came by around lunch, dropping off a part, and caught the tail end of Ricky retelling the AC fixed joke. He shot me a look, half pity, half anger, but didn't say anything then. I just shrugged like it didn't bother me, but it did. The rest of the day dragged. Every time I walked through the bay, someone was snickering or whispering. I kept my head down, got through my calls, but the shame stuck with me. I'd always been the guy people could count on for a fair deal or a quick job. Now I was the one everyone talked about behind his back. When my shift finally ended, I just wanted to get the hell out. But as I was walking to my truck, my phone buzzed with a message request. Weird username. I hesitated, then opened it. Hey, Mike. You don't know me, but I work with Dan at Napa. Just thought you should know. Lisa's been DMing other guys for a while, way before she left. A few with dudes from the shop. Got proof if you want it. Attached were screenshots of Lisa's profile, flirty messages, her talking about missing the excitement and setting up meetups. Different names. Different times. One of them was a guy I'd met once at Dan's last birthday. Brent happened to walk by just then, locking his own car. He saw my face and called, "You all right, man?" I held the phone out, my hand actually shaking a little. "You gotta see this." He looked, then whistled, anger mixing with something else in his eyes. "Well, guess you finally know how deep it goes." His question wasn't a joke this time. The evidence was right there, and my humiliation had just reached a whole new level. But something else started to take hold, a need to do something with the truth, not just swallow it. That evening, I met Brent at the Pinecone Diner off Route 5. That's where you go when you need to talk, and where nobody expects you to smile. The place was almost empty except for a couple of old guys playing cards in the corner and a teenage waitress counting tips near the counter. Brent was already in a booth with a guy I didn't recognize. Mid-20s, skinny, wearing a Napa Auto Parts cap. He looked like he wanted to melt into the seat. Brent slid a mug across to me. "Mike, this is Cody. He works with Dan. He's the one who messaged you." Cody looked up, swallowing hard. Hey, Manor. Look, this is awkward, but I figured you should know." I didn't want to get involved, but after I saw what Lisa did to you, he broke off, glancing at Brent, then back at me. "Just look." He put his phone on a table and opened his photos. There were screenshots, dozens. Messages from Lisa, different numbers. One listed under K, but the photos and writing style were obvious. Flirty texts, meetups at local motels, dirty jokes, even her bragging about keeping things exciting. In some, the other guy's name was blacked out, but one very much wasn't. Travis, another parts guy at Dan's shop. Brent's face darkened. She really was playing everybody. That's a second phone, right? Cody nodded, wiping his palms on his jeans. Yeah, saw her step out of Dan's office to text a few times. Travis actually thought he was the only side thing until he figured out Dan and Lisa were a thing too. There was almost a fight over it last winter. Dan never knew. I scrolled through a couple messages, my grip tightening. Lisa talking about how boring men are too easy to fool and inviting someone to come up and prove you're not just another Dan. My stomach turned, but I kept scrolling. Brent's jaw was set. You got any more? Anything from after she left? Cody shrugged. Mostly just old stuff. But when her and Dan took off, Travis got real quiet. He's been acting weird, like he wants to say something but doesn't. I heard Lisa called him from the road before they got to Florida. I'd bet she's covering her tracks, but I don't know. I just figured you deserved to know. I pushed the phone back, every muscle tense, but my voice staying steady. Thanks. I needed the truth. Cody nodded, relief clear in his eyes. You want the screenshots? I'll email them. Just don't tell Dan it was me. He's got a temper. Brent let out a breath and clapped the kid on the shoulder. You did the right thing, man. Don't worry, your name's safe. Cody slid out of the booth and slipped out the door, leaving us alone with 2 untouched mugs and a pile of proof. Brent broke the silence. She played you and Dan. She played Travis. She played everyone, maybe even herself. He nudged my arm. So, what are you going to do? I didn't answer right away, just kept my eyes on the phone. The diner's overhead lights cast everything in sharp relief. Lisa's words, the dates, the reality that my life had blown up way bigger than I thought. Brent leaned closer, dropping his voice. Don't go off half-cocked, all right? This is your power now. Don't waste it on a text rant or a call. You want real payback? Crash their little paradise. Make him see who she really is. He held my stare, not a hint of his usual joking. Go big or go home, man. You've got your proof. Time to use it. I looked out the window at the diner's neon sign, flickering against the dark. Brent was right. This wasn't about feeling sorry for myself anymore. It was about showing the truth and doing it where the whole world could see it. Back home that night, I sat at the kitchen table, staring at Lisa's old coffee mug, weighing my phone in my hand. I wasn't running on anger anymore, just pure cold focus. The proof was lined up, the whole ugly timeline. Now, it was about what came next. I dialed up my cousin Jeff, who's worked as a travel agent longer than I've been married. He picked up on the second ring, voice scratchy like he hadn't slept. Mike, everything okay, man? What's up? I didn't waste time. Hey, Jeff, can you get me a room at the Seaside Palms Resort in Key Largo? Like soon. Tomorrow, if you can swing it. There was a silence, just the click of his keyboard. Then, wait, Florida Keys? Isn't that where? His voice dropped. You know Dan and Lisa are there, right? Man, are you sure about this? I'm absolutely sure, I said. It's not a vacation. I need to see her. I need closure. My tone was flat. I guess he heard it. Jeff let out a low whistle. All right. Well, it just so happens they've still got king rooms available. You want the honeymoon suite to really rub it in? He joked, then caught himself when I didn't laugh. Kidding. I'll get you something near the pool bar. You want me to handle flights? Yep. Send me the details and I'll book it. And Jeff, I need you to send all those screenshots to my private email. Everything. Call it emotional baggage. He snorted. That's the heaviest carry-on I've ever heard of. All right. You need anything else? Should I pack you some sunglasses and a shirt that says, I know your secrets? For the first time in days, I cracked a small smile. Just the basics. Thanks, Jeff. And don't tell anyone yet. Your secret's safe. But Mike, don't go down there swinging, all right? He hesitated, then softened. You get your closure, but don't let them drag you down to their level. I hung up and found Lisa's mom's number. The phone rang and rang. Then finally, Jan's voice, tired and cautious. Mike, is something wrong? Jan, I wanted to let you know I'm going down to the Keys. I need to look Lisa in the eye. I need answers. She was quiet a moment. Do you think she'll even listen? She's not herself right now, Mike. She's chasing something she's gonna regret. I kept my voice even. Maybe. But I need to see it for myself. I'll let you know when I get there. Jan blew out a shaky sigh. All right. Just be careful. She's mixed up bad this time. And, Mike, don't let her break you. You deserve better than all this. I promised I'd be careful, then hung up before my resolve slipped. I went upstairs, packed my bag, and triple-checked the folder of screenshots. My hand shook only once when I tucked Lisa's last note. I need more out of life. Don't wait up into the side pocket. Just in case. The next afternoon, I landed in Miami, rented a car, and drove the sticky, sun-blasted roads to Key Largo. I pulled up to the seaside palms as the sun was setting, painting everything gold. The place looked exactly like Dan's Instagram post. Same gaudy flamingo floats, same tiki torches. At the front desk, a young clerk in a bright blue resort shirt smiled at me, then glanced at his computer. Name? I gave it, sliding my ID across. He typed for a second, then looked up, a sly smile tugging at his lips. Ah, well, we've had a wild wedding party here this week. Maybe you're here for the fallout? His tone was knowing, and the guest behind me raised his eyebrows, suddenly interested. I just smiled, calm as could be. Yeah, I'm here for the fallout. He handed me my key card, the hint of gossip already in the air. And as I walked through the lobby toward my room, I knew Lisa and Dan weren't going to see me coming, but the whole resort was about to watch it happen. The next afternoon, I parked myself at the Seaside Palms pool bar, blending in with a group of Midwestern tourists working through their second round of frozen drinks. I kept my sunglasses on and my head down, but it didn't take long to spot Lisa and Dan, front and center, putting on a show. Dan was at the edge of the pool, tossing a beach ball to a group of hotel kids, chest out like he was running for mayor. Lisa sat on a lounge chair behind him, wearing a floppy hat and big sunglasses, holding court with a couple of friendly guests and two resort bartenders. She was laughing loud, glancing around to see who was watching. One of the guests, an older lady in a sun visor, leaned in. You two celebrating something big? Lisa tilted her head, flashing her smile. Oh, just the start of our real life. Finally with a man who understands me. She reached for Dan's hand, making a show of squeezing his fingers while he turned and winked at the group. Someone raised their glass to the newlyweds. Lisa giggled and tucked her legs up. Honestly, after years stuck in boring old Ohio, I deserve this. Who wants to freeze and settle right? She looked around, letting the Ohio comment hang for anyone to catch. Dan jumped in, loud enough for the whole cabana row. Lisa's always been too much for small-town life. She needs excitement. Sunshine, new adventures, people who don't judge you for wanting more. He shot a pointed smile at the bartender, who nodded along. I kept sipping my drink, jaw tight. The bartenders glanced my way now and then, but I kept my face turned, listening. Every so often, Lisa would get louder, showing off for whoever would listen. Back home, everyone wants you to stay in your lane. Here, you can actually breathe. An older guy at the bar gave a low chuckle as Lisa went on about real men and adventure. He glanced at me, then at Lisa, and shook his head. The bartender closest to me must have noticed my reaction because he slid over and topped off my glass without asking. Looks like you could use this, he murmured. I raised an eyebrow, half smiling. You ever seen a honeymoon explode in public? He gave a little shrug. Buddy, I've seen worse blow-ups here than a hurricane. These two? They're just louder than most. Dan and Lisa kept up their routine, moving from the pool to the bar, making sure everyone saw their inside jokes and half-drunken tenderness. They held hands, Lisa making faces at the bartenders when Dan's back was turned, Dan flexing for every group of college girls that went past. I watched, waiting for the cracks to show. It didn't take long. By the time the sun dipped low, Lisa and Dan were holding court at the bar, surrounded by half a dozen people. Lisa laughed with a guest in a floral shirt, batting her lashes. The guy leaned in, asking where she was from. She sipped her drink, then said, just loud enough for his wife and three others to hear, let's just say I needed a break from needy men. Some people think a vacation fixes everything, but some guys are just as boring in the sun as they are at home. She arched a brow in Dan's direction, not even looking to see if he noticed. The guest laughed uncertainly, glancing at Dan. One of the bartenders froze in the middle of pouring a margarita, eyes darting between Lisa and Dan. For a second, Lisa's smile dropped, and she rolled her eyes at the man in the floral shirt. He's sweet, but you know how it is. Some people need all the attention all the time. She laughed, but it sounded brittle. I caught every word. The show was starting to crack, right out in the open for the crowd, and for me to see. The bartender gave me a knowing look and slid another drink across. Timing's everything if you want to see fireworks, pal. I nodded, settling in. It was almost time. That night, the Seaside Palms bar was crammed with sunburned tourists and half the resort staff. I found a seat by the stage, playing it cool. The guy next to me, tall, built like a linebacker, with the same crooked grin as one of Dan's buddies, looked over and nodded. Vacation? He asked. I stuck out my hand. Mike. He smirked. Derek. Dan's my brother. Small world, huh? I paused just long enough for him to catch the tension. He chuckled, shaking his head. Don't worry, I'm not here for them. I came to fish. Didn't even know they were here until I saw that sideshow by the pool. He jerked a thumb toward the bar, where Lisa and Dan were holding court, loud and a little sloppy. I lowered my voice. You want to help me shake things up a bit? Derek's eyes sparkled with mischief and something sharper. Depends. You got a plan, or are we just throwing drinks? Trivia night. Are you in? Within 10 minutes, Derek was chatting up the hotel DJ, working his magic. Hey, man, you should do a newlywed special tonight. That crazy couple, Lisa and Dan. Give everyone a laugh. The DJ grinned, giving me a wink as I slipped him a hotel-branded flash drive. Got a playlist? The DJ whispered, eyebrow raised. Something like that, I said. Just make this the craziest round of trivia you've ever seen. Soon, the place was buzzing. Word spread fast. Honeymoon trivia. Wild couples going up. The bartenders hustled to make room, and the front of the crowd started chanting Lisa and Dan's names. Derek slapped me on the back, grinning ear to ear. Lisa and Dan swaggered up to the makeshift stage, drinks in hand. Lisa beamed and waved at the crowd. You really know how to make a girl feel special, she called, blowing a kiss into the audience. Dan flexed, soaking in the spotlight. The DJ's voice boomed out. Give it up for our newlyweds. Now, let's see how well you know each other, and maybe, just maybe, how well you know your secrets. The room buzzed with anticipation. First, some softball questions. Where did you meet? What's your favorite drink? But then the DJ glanced at the screen behind him and smirked. Next round is mystery messages. I'll read a message. You tell us who sent it. Lisa's smile faltered for a split second. The first message flashed. I can't wait to see you tonight. Dan never suspects a thing. The DJ grinned. Lisa, do you recognize that one? She laughed, a shade too sharp, and waved it off. Dan, obviously. He's terrible at secrets. The crowd howled, loving the chaos. But the DJ kept it rolling. Second, you're way more fun than my boring old life. Lisa's laughter turned brittle, eyes darting to Dan. Dan snorted. You better not have said that about me. The DJ grinned. Well, some of these came from a very private number. Want to see the screenshots? The screen behind him powered on. Photos of messages, Lisa's secret conversations with names blurred, one after another, scrolling past like a news ticker. The crowd got quieter, the laughter turning to awkward murmurs. Lisa tried to laugh. Is this supposed to be a joke? But the DJ just kept reading, voice getting sharper. Who's Travis? I'll sneak out after Dan falls asleep. He's so clingy. Don't worry, I deleted those pics. Dan's face turned bright red. What the hell is this? Lisa snapped. Just stop. This isn't funny. She tried to grab at the DJ's tablet, but he shrugged her off. Suddenly, as Dan tried to answer a bonus question, Lisa's phone hooked up to the DJ's display so everyone could see incoming trivia answers, buzzed with a new notification, big and bold as the resort logo. Hey, babe, can't wait to see you again tonight, winky face. Derek S. The whole bar froze, eyes flicking from the screen to Lisa, to Dan, and back. Someone gasped. More phones came out. The staff stopped pouring drinks mid-shake. Dan's fists clenched at his sides. Lisa was frozen, mouth open, as the crowd started to buzz. I locked eyes with Derek. He gave me a tiny, wicked nod. The stage was set, and there was no turning back. The bar was dead silent, except for Lisa's phone buzzing, the new message from some stranger. Derek's dot, still burning on the big trivia screen. Dan stared at it, jaw twitching, face purple. Lisa gawked like she'd just been punched in the gut. Phones were out everywhere, guests whispering and elbowing each other. The tension snapped like a rubber band. I stood up, pushing away from my table with a scrape loud enough for heads to turn. The DJ caught my eye and killed the backing music. Looks like we've got a twist, folks. Anyone want to clear this up? I stepped forward, holding up my phone. Yeah, I think we all deserve some answers. My voice carried. You could hear glasses stop clinking. Lisa locked onto me, forcing a brittle smile. Oh, look, my ex finally decided to crawl out from under his rock. What, jealous you didn't get picked for paradise? I ignored her, talking over the ripple of laughter from the intoxicated crowd. Then, you recognize this number? I flicked the screen, and the projector filled up with screenshots. Lisa's messages, conversations with Travis and half a dozen other men. Flirtation, plans, late-night meetups. Each one time-stamped, names visible. Dan's shoulders stiffened as I read, You're way more fun than my boring old life. Can't wait for Dan to pass out tonight. That one's to Travis, your own coworker, a week before you got here. The crowd buzzed louder, a chorus of, no way, and, is this for real? Lisa spun toward the DJ, voice cracking. Turn that off. This is a joke, right? Some kind of weird prank? I held firm. You want to tell everyone about Derek S? Or maybe show them the photos you sent last weekend? I swiped, letting the next round of receipts roll across the big screen. Several people gasped. A group of women near the bar started whispering, eyes wide. Lisa glared at me, raising her chin. So what? You're just bitter because someone actually wanted me. You moved on, right? Or is stalking still your hobby? She tried to sound sharp, but her voice shook. This is just sad, Mike. The DJ cut in, reading another DM aloud. I love a man who keeps secrets. Don't worry, Dan thinks he's the only one. The crowd let out a stunned laugh. Dan wheeled on Lisa, veins bulging in his neck. What the hell, Lisa? You said you loved me. You said I was the upgrade. She spun, grabbing his shirt. They're fake. He's making this up. Why would I? He ripped free, face twisted with rage. The bartender slammed down his shaker. All right, that's it. I've seen enough drama for 1 year. Both of you, out. We don't need this mess wrecking our bar. A few guests started clapping. Someone shouted, "Serves you right," while others filmed the scene. Lisa stumbled back, arms flailing as she tried to plead with the staff. Please, no, you don't understand. This is all twisted. Dan, tell them. Mike, stop it, please. The manager stepped up, crossing her arms. You've disturbed the entire resort, embarrassed yourselves and our guests. I'm giving you 10 minutes to pack and get off the property. Security will escort you. Dan stormed past Lisa, shoving through the crowd, muttering curses. Phones followed him out, chronicling every step. Lisa, left alone, tried to clutch my arm. Mike, you can't let them do this. Please. Don't let them throw me out. You don't know what you're doing. I pulled away. I know exactly what I'm doing. You made this bed. The staff circled in, firm. Lisa's screams turned desperate as the manager repeated, off the property, now. The last thing I saw was Lisa, cornered by security and weeping in front of 24 recording phones, watching her paradise turn to dust in the middle of the crowd. Nobody stepped in to help, not even Dan. I walked out of the bar into the thick Florida air, the sounds of Lisa's shouting fading behind me. The bartender, a guy named Marco who'd seen it all, caught up to me by the tiki torches, shaking his head in disbelief. Man, you just turned this whole place upside down, he said, half grinning. Not gonna lie, I've been waiting to see those two get what's coming. Derek, Dan's brother, joined us by the curb, hands in his pockets. You handled it better than I would have. Dan's always thought he could outsmart everyone. Guess he picked the wrong woman this time. I shrugged, feeling lighter than I had in weeks. I just wanted the truth out there. Marco laughed and clapped me on the shoulder. You want a drink on the house before you go? Or maybe just a cab to anywhere but here? Nah, I said. I think I've had enough of this place. We watched security hustle Lisa and Dan out of the lobby, both of them red-faced and yelling at each other, bags in hand. A couple of resort guests snapped photos as they passed. One woman muttered, "Should have packed some dignity." Derek shook his head and snorted. That's gonna follow them for a long time. I left them at the curb and headed to my room, packed my things in silence, and booked the earliest flight home. The next morning, I barely looked back at the resort as I climbed into the shuttle van, Lisa and Dan nowhere in sight. Back in Ohio, Brent and my cousin Jeff met me at the airport. Brent grinned, holding out a coffee. So, you actually look like you slept. Jeff nudged Brent. Told you he'd come back in one piece, and probably with a better tan than either of us. I just smiled, finally able to mean it. It's over, I said, and it was. But the last thing I heard as I walked out of the terminal was some stranger on the phone behind me, laughing. You hear about that crazy couple from Ohio? Thrown out of paradise. Couldn't happen to nicer people.